can I just say to what I want to say to all of my nieces out there, to all of my young ladies at, and this is because I was having a conversation with my actual nieces uh, yesterday. They're so insightful and so self-aware and so expressive and able to communicate what they felt and very observant and one of my nieces is going back to living on campus in the spring, and she was just sharing and expressing how she wants to have a much better experience. And I just said, just think about. She was like, I don't want to keep thinking about, I'm feeling kind of nervous and anxious about it and going back on campus. She said, I'm trying to focus on just the excitement of it. I said, yeah. I said, just pay attention and expect for the best and, have your heart open and excitement. I said, because whatever you're thinking, that's what you're going to create. Because we actually do create our lives, whether we intend to or not. And I'm telling you this because I can remember when I was teaching and I would have an idea of, okay, I want to take this trip. I want to take my students. Matter of fact, I taught in middle school. And the thought came to my mind. I was like, wow, these children, I want to create opportunities for them to experience something different, right? I would always say there's a world beyond, your block or your neighborhood. Because I worked with students who from like inner city or lower socioeconomic and may not have been able to have experiences that were, some would say would be, I guess, expensive or may not have I guess the finances to experience that, right? So the thought just came to me. I want to create opportunities and experiences again for these students to have, to let them know that all things are possible and they can live their dreams. So I had the idea to just, I want to take a trip. I want to take these kids to New York, right? And I remember just having the idea and I remember feeling and just being fascinated and feeling like so excited. Like I could just see us like in New York. Mind you, I'd never been to New York. Never. But I do and did have the experience of traveling. My parents taking us on family trips and we would go different cities, go to the beach. I did have that, and I remember how I felt, and I wanted to bring that to my students. So I remember having this idea in my head. I couldn't tell you where it came from. The thought just came. What I do know where it came from. It was a divine thought from God. Um, I want to take a trip to New York, and so I researched it. I found a company that actually helped schools, teachers prepare trips for students. And I proposed, I wrote the proposal, planned the trip, went and spoke to my principal at the time. He wasn't, it wasn't an automatic no, but he was very concerned. Fortunately, I had another teacher, a seasoned teacher, because I was fairly new in middle school. I was a new, fresh, I think I was like a first year teacher. So I had a seasoned, a veteran teacher who was my mentor who actually spoke to the principal to reassure that, she would help me and it would be okay and how it would be beneficial not only for the students, it would look good for the school. So anyway, long story short, we had fundraisers. It was a small group that committed, had fundraisers. Got to the point I felt like I was the only one pushing the fundraiser. Sold candy, sold uh, dinners and raffle tickets. And the group, I think it ended up being like 12 students. We had a big charter bus. But, and the teacher who was the mentor, who was supposed to be like supporting me, helping me, she didn't help a lot with the the uh, the fundraising efforts. But I remember walking to her when we finally made the last, when I finally made the last payment, because she wasn't very involved in the fundraising. But she did provide a lot of moral support, I guess you could say, to me. But I don't think she believed I was going to do it. And I remember when I went to her and I said, well, trip's paid for. I just went and made the last payment. She was like, really? I was like, yeah. We took the trip. We took the trip to New York. And I remember just seeing the excitement and fascination on the students' faces. And I personally didn't feel like, oh my God, I did it. Whatever. I didn't feel any of that. I just took it all in stride. And I enjoyed the trip with the students. And um, I didn't feel overwhelmed. I didn't feel like, oh man, I did this. I didn't feel any of that. I just felt like this was a thought I had. We walked it out. We walked through it, and I did it. And my point in saying that was, it was a thought in my mind and in my heart, and I was dreaming it, and I was just imagining what it felt like, how it would be, and that trip manifested. We did it. And not only was I able to do that, but subsequently every year after, I was able to take field trips to either to New York. We take groups of children to New York. I had more chaperones to New York, and then we also took trips to Florida, to Universal Studios. All with the whole um, purpose in my heart and in my mind was to provide an opportunity for these children, for these students to experience something, and to encourage them that they can do anything that they want to do. And there's a world beyond their communities, a world outside of their world that is open to them, and all things are possible. And we did it. But my point in sharing this is, everything begins with a thought, with an idea that's in your mind. So whatever you're thinking, whatever you're feeling, you create that. I used to tell my students, you were your parents' dream at one point. Every, mom, at some point when you're young, you want to, if I'm going to have a children, and you dream about how I'm going to treat my baby, and the baby becomes a reality. It manifests. So whatever we're thinking, whatever we're dreaming, whatever we're feeling, we create our worlds. And I didn't realize this um, until I started on my own journey, my self-reflecting journey to become, to find out what made me happy, and to find out what I like and what I enjoy. Because for a long time, I really didn't put a lot of effort into that. But that was one of the most powerful things for the past, I would say, 2 to 3 years, that I come to realize that everything that has happened to me, I created it knowingly and unknowingly, positive and negative. So now that I know this, I'm going to be much more intentional about, I'm attempting to be way more intentional about what I'm feeling. So when I was having that conversation with my niece, I was saying, listen, whatever you're feeling about school and about your experience, that's what you're going to have when you get there. You create your own experiences. And she was like, yeah, I knew that. I've heard about that. So yeah, I'm going to do that. And I said, just walk with your head up. Just, smile. Um, you'll find your tribe. And then I just shared some of my own experiences when I went to college, and how I was excited, and I didn't know anybody. And but I was expecting to, and I was just looking around at how I met one of my first friends there. So kind of going out there. But my point is, we really do have the power. Excuse me. We really do have the power, and we do, whether we realize it or not, of creating our own reality in our own lives, in our own worlds, by our thoughts and our feelings. Sorry, my mouth was extremely dry. So pay attention. Sorry. try to be intentional about paying attention to how you feel. And one thing I try to do is remember like the feeling of an experience. Like I said before, we went to the fair with my nieces this past weekend. I remember the joy and the love and the excitement. And I try to grab that feeling and remember that whenever I'm recalling something that was not so good, and to disconnect with it, because if I hold on to that not so good feeling and just like harbor that and keep thinking it and just bringing it up, and it just sets my whole frame of thought. It puts my body in a negative space. It puts me in the operating from the fight or flight, the sympathetic nervous system, and the fight or flight, and biological things that happen in my body that makes me in a place of non-healing. So I'm trying, and I think I've grown and I've practiced that to a point where I try to walk in it every day, and I set the tone each day by what I try to meditate first thing in the morning and record it, so I can walk in that, right, put myself in that space. But that's a whole other subject, and the subject that I want to be intentional about is to pay attention to how you feel, because you actually are creating, we actually are creating our worlds and our reality based on how we're feeling, what we're thinking, believe it or not. And as a woman of faith, as a woman who was raised in the church, as ordained ministers, having pastors as parents, a PK, and having the Bible as my sacred text, and so many scriptures about, what we should think and how we should feel. One of the scriptures that I recall is to think on these things, whatever's honest, whatever's lovely, whatever's just, whatever's, if there be any praise, if there be any good report, to think on those things, So I try to do that. I'm trying to do that. And I encourage y'all to try to do it, because it does make a difference. I'm learning now that it makes a difference. It makes a difference spiritually, physically, and mentally in our lives every day, and eventually creates our reality and our lives of what we're wanting. So, yeah, that's it, y'all. Do that. Especially in this particular state and time, this political season, the way the world is. If you listen to news, if you listen to a lot of social media, and that's what you're using as the basis for, how you're feeling and what you're thinking and what you should be doing, you want to try to be intentional and inject that, because you are the creator of your life. You dictate your life, regardless of what's going on in the world, regardless of what, whoever says this, whoever says that. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter. What matters is you and what you're thinking and what you're feeling, and you realizing and recognizing that you have the power to create your world and create your life. I really believe that. So be encouraged, y'all. Let's do it. Let's be intentional about how we're feeling. Try it. Try it today while you're watching it right now. Regardless of what the external, what's happening externally or beyond your control, you maintain and monitor you, and see how your life and your world changes. I'm so excited, because my world, my dreams, and everything that I've been wanting are beginning to be manifested. And yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So, all right, let's do this.